Welcome back to the Dr. Des Show. I'm Dr. Des, and today we are talking all about resumes and why so many people, so many public health professionals stay stuck. But before we get started, make sure that you like and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure that you leave me some comments too. Let me know how you're liking the comments. If you're an Apple Podcast, make sure that you go ahead and comment and leave me a 5-star rating if you love it. And then also, if you're watching this on YouTube and you got all the video, then make sure that you comment, make sure that you like it, make sure that you follow this page. But today, I want to really talk about why so many people stay stuck and why so many people are having so many issues with their resumes, right? And right now, I want to preface this with saying, like, right now, it's just a crazy time in the job market, okay? And honestly, your resume alone will not get you the job a lot of times. It's going to take things like networking. It's going to take things like going above and beyond, like making a digital portfolio, like marketing yourself. And in one of our later podcast episodes, I'm actually going to get into that. So make sure that y'all subscribe so you can stay tuned. But today we're talking all about that first step, that resume. And I want to paint a picture and tell you all my resume story. So when I first started getting in the job market, like really just saying like, okay, I want a public health, my first like big girl career starting job, right? I was actually in my master's program and I was working as a medical assistant. So I had my medical assistant certification. I was doing that. But I was like, okay, I know I want to do public health, so I need a public health job. Now I applied, I got rejection after rejection. I was not getting any callbacks. And I'm like, man, what is going on? And I was like, my resume is good. Like, I think it's good. But, I looked at it and I was like, you know what? I need to approach this like how I approach school. Like, I'm in school, I do all this studying in school, like I'm doing all of this. I really need to think about how can I approach this resume like that. So I decided to study. So I studied and I was just like, okay, let me actually see what makes a good resume and how can I ensure that my resume is going to get selected. So study. It took days, weeks of me trying to like say, okay, all right, this is what a resume in the tech industry looks like. This is what a resume for nonprofits they want to see. This is what a resume in the federal government looks like. All right, what do I need on my resume? How do I showcase my accomplishments? How do I do all of these things? How do I word things when I don't really have that many accomplishments? And y'all, I did it. And once I made all of those changes, I started getting callbacks. And now, one of the things I thought about during that whole thing was, man, if I would have had somebody helping me, I could have got here a whole lot faster and saved so much time from just trying to study this process and learn all these things, right? But I didn't have anybody helping me and guide me. That's one of the areas that I see a lot of public health professionals and just a lot of honestly professionals in general, you kind of mess up in is that you look at it and you say, oh yeah, I know this is a good resume because I know I have good skills. But a lot of times, majority of the times, those skills aren't really translated onto paper for anybody else to see them. And they're not translated in a way that makes you marketable. So I think a lot of times that's one of the major issues that I see. That and a lot of people downplay themselves on their resume. So when I was going back and forth looking at my resume, it was a fact of, oh, like, I'm doing all of these things as a medical assistant, or I did all of this volunteer work. Like I was, program director for a nonprofit organization. It was a small nonprofit that me and some of my friends in college started, but it was amazing. Like I got to lead SAT prep, do SAT and ACT prep for community centers in the neighborhoods. And, I didn't think that was a big deal because I wasn't getting paid. It was just something me and my friends started. But no, I literally was a director of programs. I developed the curriculum. I did all of that. Like I taught the students. So I had to think about things in that way and say, okay, no, Des, you got to play this up on your resume. You really got to showcase this. So if people are listening and you are like, in undergrad or you don't have as much experience, that volunteer work that you did, that stuff you did in college, it counts and you need to play it up big time. Even if you did not get paid, that is work experience. That section does not say, I got paid for this experience. It says work experience. So if you have work experience, make sure that you put that on there. But, I going into it like, okay, now we saying like, okay, I was able to put my resume out there. I got hits, right? I started getting a lot of interviews once I started making those changes to my resume. And I ended up landing an amazing job. And I think one of the things that I learned from that too was like, all right, resume strategy is one thing, but then that interview strategy was a whole nother ball game, because once I actually started getting interviews, I remember one of my first interviews, and I may have told this story before, but it's okay, y'all. Like, a lot of people didn't hear it. But I remember one of my first like real interviews that I did. And I remember walking out of that interview knowing I did not get the job, because I was sitting in there, they were asking me questions, and only thing in my head was like, I don't know the answer to this question. I don't really have experience in this area. Like, y'all, I'm a talker. So I can talk all day. But now, in order to talk and make it make sense and actually show them I could get the job, that was a level of finesse I had not reached. Okay. So even though I was talking, I was likable, I was smiling, they liked my personality, I did not convey that I had the experience. And I walked out of that interview knowing I did not get the job 100%, because I knew that, like, I literally could not explain how my skills connected with the role, even though they were on my resume, right? Because I revamped my whole resume, but I didn't go in and study. And I think that was one of the things, like, now I can say from outside looking in, all right, that is why, Des. That's why you didn't get the job. But I want to go ahead and I do want to talk about some common mistakes that I see on resumes and how you can go ahead and get them fixed right now, so you can get out there and start really trying to land those interviews, right? And remember what I said earlier before we started. It takes a lot more nowadays to get those job interviews than it did back then. And if you stay tuned, and even some of our previous episodes, I may have mentioned some strategies, but within the Public Health Club, that's one of the things we talk about: building digital portfolios, building all of these other assets to make yourself more marketable in the job space. Because let's be honest, in school, they don't teach us how to market ourselves. They do not teach us that, especially in public health. We are not taught how to market ourselves. We aren't taught how to talk about ourselves in a way that boosts ourselves up, that brings us opportunities. We are taught theories. We are taught how to develop community programs. We are taught how to evaluate programs. We're taught how to do all of those things. We may have a communications course, but we're not talking about communications as in terms of how do we market ourselves to sell ourselves, or how do we market something to sell something. No, we're thinking about communications in a whole different way, right? So all of those things, because they are new to us, because they aren't tools that we're taught, that were in our tool belt, a lot of people do not use them, right? So, and it's okay. Like, if you're like, oh, listening to this and you're like, all right, Des, you making sense. It's okay, because we are smart and we can learn these things. It's going to take some time, but as long as you have somebody guiding you, and hey, here I am, we can get to there, right? So number one, the mistake that I see on people's resumes, because before we get into number one, after I decided to say, okay, I'm going to really study this, and I got really good with landing job interviews, I started helping my friends out with their resumes. They started landing jobs, and I said, okay, Dad, you got something here. So that's when I launched my first business that I had. It was called Young Black and Professional. Don't have that business anymore, but it was called Young Black and Professional, and I helped recent college graduates basically develop their resumes. So I did resume writing, I did career development, interview prep. I built a course to help recent college graduates. It was called Recent Grad Boot Camp. I did all of those things, right? And it helped people land jobs. And I was like, wow, okay, all right. But it helped people so much faster, because I knew I did not want people to go through everything that I went through to have to say, all right, I'm going to sit here for weeks and try to learn how to make a really good resume. I didn't want people to have to go through that. So I created a course. I did one-on-one sessions. I did all of those things to help people. And there were a lot of things that I noticed. Number one that I noticed was people tend to downplay themselves on their resume. And by downplaying yourself, here's what I would do. Here was my method for when I would do resumes with people. So I would literally have them send me their resume beforehand. I'll review it. And then I would have particular questions that I would write out next to all of their stuff on their resume. But then once I got in the call with them, because I would do like a 45 to 60-minute call where we're doing like a deep dive so I can really get more information so I can build them a great resume. I would ask them, I said, okay, tell me about this job, but I don't want you to look at what you got on your resume. I just want you to tell me everything that you do on your day-to-day. Tell me all the things that you're responsible for, all the things that you do, all the things that you accomplish, all the things that you've done. Tell me about it. And while they're telling me about it, I'm taking notes. I'm like taking notes. I'm taking notes. I'm taking notes because I will tell you that about 80% of the things that they said when they were just talking about things that they do were not on their resume. It was not communicated. And I was like, oh, like you do a lot. And they were like, yeah, I guess I do a lot. You think? And it's not showcased on your resume. So I think that that's number one. Like you have to really think about how much, like, what do I really do? And now because we have, like, back then I did not have ChatGPT, okay? So I was doing all of this stuff by hand. Yeah, I was doing all of it, okay? And one of the things I would do is record my meetings with people so I could go back and I would listen in to what they were saying about different experiences as I'm writing and reworking their resume. But that was one of the major things that I was like, okay, people are downplaying themselves. They're not really showcasing things. And then number two was that people talked about their experience and they didn't talk about their accomplishments on their resume. Like, yes, we know you have day-to-day tasks. We know that. But what did you actually accomplish in this role, right? What did you actually get out of it, right? Did you improve a process? Did you did you change something that needed changing? Did you develop policies? Did you develop programs? Did you secure funding for a company? Like what was those accomplishments that you actually had in that role based off of your experience and the things that you did? That's another thing that I didn't see as much. Also, number three, quantifying your achievements. Like in a sea of words, we have to think about what is going to stand out to people. Because let's be honest, a recruiter is only looking at your resume for about 6 seconds. That means they're scanning it. That means all of the months that you put in to make this a good resume, if it is not, they're going to know in a few seconds and then they're going to pass on and move on. And I know it is unfair. I know it's not great. I know like if they were to really look into it and really get to know you, you'd be the best person for the job. But they ain't got time because, in the previous episode that I had did, I talked about for an unpaid internship, I had over 500 applicants. Imagine what these jobs are going through right now. Thousands of applicants for one position. Number one, of course, they have the applicant tracking system, that computer system. They, of course, have that screening resumes. And I remember back when I was a hiring manager, we had the applicant tracking system. I did not know it was called that at the time. So I just knew like, oh, yeah, the computers are going to score my resumes, the resumes for me. So this is great. But applicant tracking system. And what it did was it ranked everyone's resume. So I would literally go in and the top 5 I would pull. It gave every resume a score from 100% on down. For the top 5 I would pull and I would actually look at them. I would scan them and I said, all right, let's give these 3 an interview. And that is that. And then we go from there. If those 3 didn't pan out, then we go back to that list and go from there and maybe start that process again. But usually it's like we want those top 3 to pan out, one of them, because we don't want to do this process again, right? But, that's something to think about. Even though your resume may make it through the applicant tracking system because you got all the keywords in it and everything like that, a human still has to see it. And this is where quantification comes in on your resume because usually with our resumes, a lot of times we put a whole lot of narrative, whole lot of words. It's very wordy. So in a sea of words, numbers stand out. Bullet points stand out as you bullet point things, right? So if we're saying quantify, meaning add in some numbers, okay? If you worked with clients, how many clients did you work with? If you worked with a team, how many people were on your team that you managed, okay? If you work with money, how much money did you manage? What was that budget looking like, right? If you secured grant funding, how much, right? How many grants, okay? If you improved the process by what percentage did you improve it? And you can do estimates for this, right? It doesn't have to be exact numbers. You can do estimates, but try to quantify as much as you can. I know everything won't be quantifiable, but really try to quantify as much as you can, okay? Because that is going to help you make a good resume too. All right. So all of those things, I think that might have been number 3 that I'm on maybe. So maybe let's go into number 4. So number 4 with your resumes, like you want to make sure that your resume is being able to be read from left to right, meaning that you don't have any chunky columns in your resume. Also no pictures, no graphics, okay? Because so many people will put like their headshot on there. Don't do that. They'll put like different pictures, a graph, a chart. Like don't do that. Why? Because the applicant tracking system can't read it. And you want your resume to be easily read by the computer. And what the computer does, it reads your resume from left to right. So if you have like all these like columns, so let's say you got like this left column over here that has like experience or your education and like all of these things in this column, and then in the next section of your resume, that's when you have your experience. The applicant tracking system is going to read it from left to right. So if you have your experience or your education right here, it's going to read it as Florida State University, and then it's going to go into that line about your experience. So it's going to look wonky. It's going to look off. So you want to make sure your resume is able to be read from left to right. You want to make sure that you do have like bullet points in there for your areas of expertise or your key skills, and have those in there. Have your credentials on there. And I actually got the question the other day of, Dr. Des, like somebody told me that when I'm applying for jobs, I shouldn't put all my credentials on there. I said, well, who told you that? If you earned them, why are you not putting them on your resume? But the reasoning behind it was that, they, for some jobs that don't require a doctorate and they have a doctorate, they felt like they weren't getting called back because they have a doctorate and doctorate wasn't required. And, I was like, that's an interesting point that you made, because it reminded me of a scenario of where people will submit for certain jobs. They have a lot of experience, all these credentials, but the person in the hiring position that was going to hire them, that will be your boss, they don't have nearly as many credentials as you, so they get a little intimidated. So they don't want to hire you. So I was like, man, it's like a catch-22, but you got to think about it like, do you really want to work for a company that is going to look down on you or is going to be intimidated by you because you have all these credentials? And I know we need the money, but is it worth your mental health? Because I guarantee you, whoever that boss would have been, they would have made your life crazy because of how they felt intimidated and they didn't feel like they were enough because you had all these credentials and they don't. So you got to make sure you checking that work environment too, because I know like in today's world, we just want the job, right? We just want the job. But a lot of jobs are costing people their mental health, and you want to make sure that you're thinking about that as you go along, okay? But listen, guys, I said all of this to say your resume should definitely fit all of those things and more that's in the criteria of things, because right now, like, there's so many people on the job market. So we have to, one, make sure our resume is excellent. We have to make sure that we have like a digital portfolio. We have all of these other things that is going to help us to really be seen and to really land that interview. And then ultimately, we got to make sure that we are going to kill it in the interview, that we're going above and beyond, because right now the job market is crazy, okay? And you got to make sure that we are standing out. And the first step is that resume, okay? And going back to what I told you all earlier, if you do not get help with your resume, you're going to spend a whole lot of time playing out different scenarios, getting rejections, doing all of these things. And when you could just save yourself that time, right? In the Public Health Club, we have a whole resume writing workshop that I led that is on demand. As soon as you get in, you can take that resume workshop, okay? And literally, I show you all, this is what a good resume looks like. This is how to format your resume. This is how you get this experience. This is how you do these things. All of the things that I talked about today, we go in depth and I show you examples, okay? Because you need a good resume, but you need to also know what a good resume looks like. I think one major mistake that I see nowadays is that people will just put their resume in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever to give them a great resume. Make this a good resume. Or can you help me with my resume? Or some generic kind of things like that. But if you don't know what a good resume looks like, then Chat will give you anything and that's what you're going to use. I've seen that happen time and time again. And I'm like, oh, what, you got your resume done? Oh, I just used AI. I use whatever. And I'm just like, listen, this is great. AI is amazing. I recommend you to use it, but you got to know how to use it. One of the things that we do have too is a ChatGPT resume guide. And it is available on our website. So it is available for purchase on our website. However, one of the things for Black Friday, we got that coming up. And guys, we're going to have some things going on for Black Friday. So I'm going to put a link in the chat if you want to like I'll put a link down below if you want to be like notified when some Black Friday stuff drop for the club, because we got a whole thing going on. So that's just a little teaser. Get y'all ready. But that's one of the things that's going to be available for Black Friday is a whole guide on how to use ChatGPT to build your resume, okay? Because so many people are out there and they're doing it wrong. But I want you to know that, number one, get help with your stuff. have a second eye on it, and an eye from people that actually have been hiring managers, that have actually reviewed hundreds and thousands of resumes and know what to look from a recruiter, not just from your friends, because, oh, like I have plenty of friends who have amazing degrees, right? But that does not mean they're resume writers, okay? I guarantee you that does not mean that they are good and they know what to look for. And they know, compared to 500 other resumes out there, what's going to make your resume get seen. Go to somebody who has known that. Come into the public health club if you're in that public health field and you need help. Join the public health club, take the resume development workshop, take the digital course work, our digital work, portfolio development workshop that we have there too. And let's go. Like, it is time to level up. It is time to know how to build these things out, and let's go. So I hope that this episode really helped you to really think strategically about your resume and think about the different ways you can do. I hope it sparks some ideas. If it sparks some ideas, let me know in the comments. Like, what idea, like what thing are you going to try to implement now? Like, what are some things you're like, oh, Des, like you got me with that one. Like, let me know in the comments how you enjoyed this episode. But all right, I will see y'all next time. And hopefully I will see you in the public health club, because I also do live mentorship in there too. So we have a bi-weekly group mentorship. Come share your resume on the screen with me and let's go. Like, I got you. We're going to give you real-time feedback and you're going to get some real strategies, and we're going to go and we're going to land this job. But all right, y'all, I will talk to y'all later. Bye.